Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here, and let's wake up the football gods here on this hump day. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Oh my God, what a crazy, crazy day it was yesterday. If you are a Dallas Cowboys YouTuber, or actually anybody on YouTube, yesterday was one of those days that your head better have been on a swivel. You better be ready to move because there was so much going on all over the place except really for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's be clear here. The Dallas Cowboys, we did the usual. We franchise tag Blake Jarwin. Dalton Schultz. We found out that we don't have enough money to keep our Pro Bowl punter. Can't afford him. Can't afford him. We found out that our number 4 wide receiver, who actually had a great season, can't afford him either. He's going to be probably in the $6, $7, $8 million range. No, too much money for him. But we can go ahead and re-sign our wide receiver who's got an ACL injury, also coming off of a calf injury, who probably won't be ready when training camp starts or to start the season. But that's the move that the Cowboys want to make. Now, in other news, we hear, Randy Gregory didn't get franchise tagged, but allegedly that there's great communication between them. They're expecting to get a deal done with Randy Gregory. Jaron Kearse, the other great free agent pickup that we had, apparently we're doing things to get him under contract as well. So if you are looking at all of the moves, all of the free agents that we brought in last year that we spent money on, right now we're looking at keeping Jaron Kearse. That's it. All of the value menu picks that Stephen Jones brought in, none of them have staying power, apparently. They're going to go. And here's the problem. Stephen Jones always says, well, you don't want to go in free agency because you don't know what you'll get. We know our guys, and we'd rather re-sign our guys. The reason why you are so screwed up on the idea of free agents is because you go into it with a value pick. Cheap. You go into it saying, I just need something to get me by, and then you're saying, oh, well, it doesn't work. You haven't really tried it. 2 times. Brandon Carr, who actually stayed healthy and was exactly what he was in Kansas City, and the crazy man, Greg Hardy. Other than that, you've never really said, let's go out and get a real player. Let's go out here and get a real player. You make mistakes, and you turn around, and then you say, oh, the players aren't any good. The problem is you're expecting to have a filet mignon when you're getting hamburger. It's not going to happen. It's a hamburger. It's not a filet mignon. It's 2 different things. They cost differently, although right now both of them are sky high. And this is the kind of thing that will happen with the Cowboys. On the same day that Aaron Rodgers signs a $200 million deal with $150 million guaranteed for 4 years, a $50 million year that just shatters the quarterback market. They also sign to a franchise tag Devontae Adams. See, they were in worse cap shape than the Dallas Cowboys. But somehow they found $70 million. $70 million for 2 guys. In the same day that Russell Wilson gets traded with a 4th round pick to Denver for 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s, a 5th rounder, And I think 4 players, we're told we can't afford our punter. Here's the thing. There's a difference between can't and won't. We keep confusing, or Stephen Jones keeps trying to tell us, we can't physically be able to do this. It's not that. He won't do this, or he's too short-sighted, or too much of the Scrooge, or gets off on getting deals, feeling like I got something for nothing, is the reason why we don't win. You turn around and say, let's franchise tag Dalton Schultz. He's a good pass catcher, but he can't block. But then you say, we don't restructure Amari Cooper. He's got to be cut, even though his contract behooves you to actually be able to restructure. A guy who's had 3,000 yards in catches, 21 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. And we say because he can't block. Dalton Schultz can't block either. Dalton Schultz can't block. Amari Cooper's a receiver that we didn't get the ball enough to. But he's the one to blame. We lost because that guy can't block. So let's get rid of him. I hear yesterday, I didn't talk about it last night, but because there's so many things that were going on. It was like literally I was doing video on top of video on top of video. There were rumors that Anthony Hitchens, who just got released by Kansas City, that the Cowboys might bring him back, which would be the perfect Cowboys thing. The Dallas Cowboys. Because here's what the Cowboys did. Anthony Hitchens, Hitch, who we drafted, played in 16 games his first year, 16 games his second year, 16 games his third season, 12 games his fourth year. Had 75 tackles, 67, 78, 84. Stayed healthy, played pretty good. He could play multiple positions at linebacker for us. They decided, you know what? We can't afford him. We can't pay him. Kind of like what they're telling us about our Pro Bowl punter, that he's going to be too expensive, so we'll get somebody else. We'll get a value guy, which means we'll get somebody who's lesser talented. Oh, okay. So we let go Anthony Hitchens. And I believe that's the year that we drafted. Did we draft Jalen Smith that year? I think we did. He immediately goes to Kansas City and has 135 tackles. 50 more than he did in any season with the Cowboys. So was it that he all of a sudden got it at Kansas City and became a great player? Or was it that the Cowboys just didn't know how to use him? So in the same time, instead of the Cowboys signing Hitchens, a player who played well for you, didn't cause any problems, stayed healthy, we said he's too expensive, we let him go. He goes to Kansas City, has 135 tackles, plays 15 games, 15 games, 14 games, 15 games. He gets a Super Bowl ring, he's in a Super Bowl, and he's in AFC Championship in the 3 years that he's there. 135 tackles, 88, 78, 80. It's good. It's good. So instead of us saying, we need this guy, we draft Jalen Smith, the guy on one leg, pay him a boatload of money, have to cut him, and then pay dead money, along with drafting Van Der Esch, who, of course, is going too. And they tell you that we can't afford to keep him. Buddy, you couldn't afford not to keep him. If you had kept Anthony Hitchens, you probably don't need to draft Jalen Smith. If you didn't draft Jalen Smith with that second pick, maybe you ended up getting an offensive lineman who is now a really good offensive lineman, or maybe a defensive lineman, for God's sakes, who's a run stuffer. Would the Cowboys been in better shape instead of paying the money that they did to Jalen Smith to have paid it to Anthony Hitchens? By all means, they would have. because we would have had Hitchens here. It wouldn't have cost us as much money, and we probably would have another starter on our roster. Instead, we're broke and can't afford to keep good players. And now that he's got a lot of miles on him, now that he's in the twilight of his career, that's when the Cowboys need him. And I'm not saying that Anthony Hitchens would not be a good pick, because he probably will be discounted. Exactly what Stephen Jones loves. The more prudent thing might be, actually, Bobby Wagner. Again, another player who has miles on him. Not going to say that he doesn't. But here's where it's interesting. Bobby Wagner. Oops, lost my numbers. Let's get the numbers up here. Okay. Bobby Wagner. What are you doing to me? Okay. Since 2012, 16 games, 14 games, 11 games, 15 games, 16 games, 16 games, 15 games, 16 games. 16 games and 16 games. The brother don't miss games. Let's take Anthony Hitchens' best season, where he had 135 tackles. And that was 4 years ago. Do you realize that Bobby Wagner has had 6 seasons with more tackles than that? Including the last 4 seasons. The last 4 seasons of tackles: 138, 159, 138, 170. Bobby Wagner will cost more money than Anthony Hitchens. I'm not saying he's a long-term player. 2 years, reuniting with Dan Quinn, being in a system that he knows, being in the spotlight. If you're going to let go DeMarcus Lawrence, and I've got no problem with that, if you end up making him a June 1st cut, and you take that $19 million and you use part of that on getting Bobby Wagner. It's funny. I actually said this a couple of weeks ago. I said, I think Bobby Wagner will be released. I said Bobby Wagner, and I said Demario Davis. If you go out and get one of those kind of guys, it instantly makes the defense better. If you take half of that money that D-Law, that $19 million, it goes to Bobby Wagner. And let's say instead of bottom basement shopping or buying some cheap mother helpers, you go out and get a real run-stuffing defensive tackle to replace him. You do those 2 moves right there, put Bobby Wagner and a run-stuffer in the middle, and put Micah Parsons on defensive end, instantly you have a great defense. It's no bullshit. That's the way that you end up winning. You want to have pieces in place where you can say, we're going to draft the best player available. Stop just plugging holes with guys like Clinton Ha-Ha Dix. You end up paying $2 million to, and you can't even get out of training camp with them. Stop going through and getting Gerald McCoy, whose numbers have been going down steadily, aging, and think that he's going to be the be-all, end-all. You can't look at Bobby Wagner and say he's done with 170 tackles. And you know he can work with Dan Quinn. And this, my friends, are the difference between what the Dallas Cowboys do versus other teams. The Rams said, you know what? We can get something out of Von Miller. We know it's going to cost us a couple of picks and some money, but it might be enough to get us over the hump. They go out and say, you know what? We need another weapon. We go out, we get Odell Beckham Jr. We don't worry about the money. It's all accounting. We can do this. The Dallas Cowboys, more than likely, won't even get Anthony Hitchens because they're telling us that we can't sign a punter. I'm sick of this bullshit. When you tell me you can't pay a punter, then you don't need to be in the business. You don't need to be in the business. Why don't we just go ahead and say, hey, just get rid of everybody. You know what? Let's make sure we have tons of money in the cap. Let's just go ahead and get rid of everybody. And at the same time, you turn around and you go to D-Law and say, how about a pay cut? The only reason you go to D-Law and say, how about a pay cut, is because you want to get rid of him because you know he's not going to. If that is the philosophy of saying, guys, we need some help, then how come you're not going to Zeke Elliott and say, hey, Zeke, how about a pay cut? You won't do that because you have no intentions of cutting him. You know that you're going to cut D-Law, and you're looking for an excuse to do it. And that's the kind of thing that drives you crazy as a Dallas Cowboy fan. It's just crazy. Now, in some regards, the Dallas Cowboys, we got lucky yesterday, and we didn't even know it. We came close to having a great quarterback in our division. We all know that the Washington Commanders are desperate, and they're trying to get a quarterback, and now I think that they've got their sights on Jameis Winston. You know, they've been rebucked, of course, on trying to get Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. You know, you see how that worked out. See if they can get Jameis Winston. And ultimately, they may be better off getting Jameis Winston because it won't cost them a boatload of picks. They'll still be able to put some players around him. And, of course, it's kind of funny that they were actually Seattle actually wanted Chase Young, but they wouldn't part with him. But that's neither here nor there. Regardless, we also find out that the Eagles, who've been telling us that they're set on Jalen Hurts, tried to get Russell Wilson. I got to go to my son over here, the dingbat. That beard is thick. That's a one thick-ass beard. I'm just going to go in with a little bit with Philly 500 because, you know, I haven't actually messed with him in a while. But so much for being happy about quarterback.
Man, this is crazy. This is crazy, and my mind is racing. Like I'm one of those guys that I think of every possible scenario about every single thing, about almost everything in life, right? I always try to do that. It's just, I'm weird like that. And this Russell Wilson thing, this trade is crazy, right? I mean, we know he gets traded to Denver. Denver gives up 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 3 players. I mean, they gave up a ton for Russell Wilson. And then, later on in the evening, we have found out that not only did the Washington Commies, because the Commanders, I refuse to say that name, but the Commies, they tried to trade for Russell Wilson. I think they offered 3 first-round picks. Now we're hearing that reportedly, and I'll say reportedly because I can't say with absolute certainty, but that we're hearing that the Eagles, they made an offer for Russell Wilson at the scouting combine. Now, what could that offer been? I have no idea, okay? I'm perfectly fine with the Eagles not getting Russell Wilson for what they gave up. Okay, like I said, there was one quarterback that I would trade for and not play Hurts over would be Russell Wilson. But as I said, when I was talking about compensation, I was saying, you know, 2 number 1s, maybe a 3rd-round pick and a player, something like that. I wouldn't have gone 2 1s, 2 2s, and then 3 players, even though, I don't think that, Drew Lock isn't a world beater. Let's face it, okay?
Okay.
But, we're hearing the Eagles made an offer. We don't know how good it is, and we're probably never going to really find out because at this point, the Eagles aren't going to come out and admit that they tried to trade for him. It's all going to be speculation. Will we ever find out what they offered? I don't know. But my guess is it was at least 2 first-round picks, maybe 3. Probably something similar to what Washington was. The issue was Russell Wilson didn't want to come to Philly, and he didn't want to come to Washington. He didn't want to waive his no-trade clause for both of those. And the reason why it sounds like was he wasn't interested in coming back out east. Now, some people are going to say, well, he didn't want to go to the Eagles because the Eagles aren't built for Russell Wilson. They're not ready yet, right? And maybe that's true. How the hell do I know what the guy's thinking? You know what I mean? I don't even know what Denzel Washington's thinking. I look exactly like him.
Lordy.
Some lady down the street, my autograph, she thought I was Denzel Washington. But I'm not him. And I don't know what he's thinking. Just like I don't know what Russell Wilson's thinking. So maybe it was because of the players that, that he didn't feel we had. Maybe he didn't feel we had the right team for him to want to come to. I don't know. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. If that's the case, if you have a situation where Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, who we're going to talk about in a minute, if you have a situation where those guys are unwilling to waive their no trade clause because they feel that the Eagles roster isn't good enough, whose fault's that? Whose fault's that?
Yours.
Why don't you have a roster that those players seem and deem good enough? Mm-hmm. That's got to be Howie Roseman's fault, right? I'm just saying. Just saying. Now, I don't think that's what it was. I don't think it has to do anything. Well, at least in Russell Wilson.
You know what it has to do with, Philly? You guys stink. Your cheesesteaks suck. And nobody wants to go there and get hated. That's what it is, Philly. That's what it is. But in the same breath, hear me out here, guys. Hear me out. In the same breath, when we say we can't keep Brian Anger, we hear this morning, just a few minutes ago, that the Panthers actually signed their kicker, okay, Zane Gonzalez, 2 years, $4.5 million. But we can't afford a punter. This is the same Carolina team that doesn't have a quarterback and is on the chain for $18 million for Sam Darnold this year, whether they keep him or let him go. Yeah. But the Cowboys are too broke to do anything. It's bullshit, guys. It's bullshit. The Cowboys, Stephen Jones, does not know what the hell he's doing. And as I've unfortunately realized, they always say that the first generation builds the business, the second generation destroys it. And I think we're beginning to get a taste of that right now. All right, guys, I will see you guys later because I know there's going to be all kinds of news today. I'll see you soon. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report.
You did one hell of a job, and all thing else I got to say is, high five!